Hey, 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 hey.
I've been quiet for too long.
Show's open again.
Hey, Aaron.
What's up, man? How's it going?
Pretty well. How you doing? Yeah. Hey, great minds think alike.
Similar shirts today, huh? Oh, what year is that one?
I have no idea.
I was like, oh yeah, that's true. The year is not actually on them. It's just a different design, though. But
That one was definitely last year.
yeah, right. We our minds aren't too far gone to remember that, at least, right? So. Great. No, we got a good audience in here already. Got over 75 people, so at least everyone that registered is here, and we really appreciate you joining. So I'm gonna kind of just there's a hat. All right, I like that look. I'm gonna kind of just set the tone real quick, but we are gonna be focused on answering your questions throughout the duration of this as we talk through the whole thing. We want to make it really engaging and give you guys what you want. So, but I just want to say that Rat's new book, Rabbit Hunt, we did just learn that the paperback went live on Amazon. So, congratulations. Really happy for you.
Yeah, it just happened all by itself. I don't know.
And what do you call it? So one thing we want to let people know is that as I talked about a little bit earlier, I my new book, Through the Eyes of Desperation, had an early audiobook release. And with audiobook releases come audiobook codes. So anyone who is in the mood to order Rabbit Hunt off Amazon, if you just hit Wrath up and let them know that you ordered, anyone in this live is going to be eligible. We're going to be giving away 5 audiobook codes. And then one lucky person is going to get this hardcover limited edition of Wet Market, which there were only 400 of these printed. And this one, I kept just 4 for myself, so this one's $3.97. So I'm looking forward to putting this in the hands of someone. And all you got to do is check out Rabbit Hunt in paperback. So just keep that in mind as you're watching. And I think that's probably, before we get into any questions, Wrath, maybe that's a good place to start. I know we got actually some people in here who have read Rabbit Hunt already, I saw. But do you want to tell us maybe a little bit about the book and inspiration and stuff like that?
Sure. So, Rabbit Hunt was kind of my twist on the redneck cannibals in the woods, redneck serial killers in the woods thing. I basically just thought, what if instead of rednecks, they were just a bunch of regular old black dudes? and I thought about, as I was writing it, I was like, I wonder if this was a skit on the Chappelle show. you know, like how would it read? Like if it was a extreme horror version of a Dave Chappelle skit, what would it read like? And I just cracked myself up the whole time I was writing it. It's brutal as all hell. It's gory as all hell. But I thought this shit was funny. So hopefully other people laugh when they read it. Might vomit too, but well, I'll take either one.
Yeah, we might be going out on a limb here, but I venture to wager that we might have a few people with dark sense of humor in this on this live. so that sounds good though. No, I love the dark humor stuff personally too. Those are some of like my favorite type of films, particularly too, is like the really dark humored ones. And that concept sounds fun. So I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out. Yeah, some people are saying, oh, they say, where can I get Rabbit Hunt? Erica, Rabbit Hunt, if you want to be eligible for what we were just talking about with the audio codes and the hardcover wet market, the paperback's up on Amazon. If you want to go full Cadillac version, it's wrathjw.com. Is that correct, Wrath?
WrathJW Horror.
Oh, .com.
And there you can get the signed hardback. You can get a regular hardback on Amazon as well, but it's not as fun. It's better. It's better with my signature on it.
And God knows what you're going to write in there, right? So- all right, yeah. So some people, Sierra says she ordered her copy of Rabbit Hunt. It'll be here Friday, so that's awesome. Rachel just ordered Rabbit Hunt. Yeah, so Clint, surprised Clint does not somehow have this book manifested already. I swear this guy has every horror, like he builds custom box sets, Wrath. He bought all of our obituaries and he built a custom box case for them. And I was so jealous. I'm like, we don't even have that. You know?
So it's an idea. In the future, maybe the next time we do a writer's retreat, we'll take all of our books and put them into a one big box set.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Because that was fun, right? We did a live from there too, and that was fun to go from room to room and kind of get everybody's experience. And I was surprised to say for you to tell us, "Oh man, this is my first one," and I had only done one, so but what was that like for you?
It was great. I had always thought that I wouldn't enjoy a writer's retreat because I thought, oh, no one's going to write. Everyone's going to be sitting around laughing and joking and talking shit, and no writing's going to get done. And I was pleasantly surprised. That first day, I cranked out 7,000 words. Excuse me. And I don't think I've written 7,000 words in one day since I wrote The Resurrectionist. So that was pretty awesome. I think I ended the weekend around 13,000 words. Not a record for me, but pretty close.
Yeah, and good things happen when you wrote The Resurrectionist, so maybe there's an omen right there, right? And we're definitely going to talk about that in a little bit too. But I'm just going to take a look in the chat here. Shane McKenzie's in there. He says Rabbit Hunt is bananas. What's up, Shane? Thanks for joining, buddy. Um, Erica also said her order was placed. So yeah, guys, if you placed your order, just make sure you go ahead and shoot Wrath a DM, just because he's going to collect the DMs and then do a drawing, and we'll make sure that we take care of you guys. We appreciate you participating. Um, DM, you should DM Wrath. So, and especially if you're not following him, make sure you follow him now. And yeah, you should be able to find it. Worst case scenario, DM me, but it'd be easier if you send it to Wrath since he's doing the drawing. But
Not a lot of
uh,
lights in any form of social media, so I don't think you'll get me confused with anyone else.
right. And I was pretty stoked when I saw that you put up that story. I don't well, it was a post on TikTok, and it was like you were talking about how you just couldn't find the right person to do the voice for Rabbit Hunt, right? For the audiobook, and how you're going to give it a go yourself.
Absolutely, I'm already buying all the equipment. Excuse me. I went through about 16 auditions, and they were all like, well, I won't say all. Some of them were ridiculously bad, but most of them, the majority of them were competent. And there were some that were really exceptional. They just weren't right for the material.
Right.
And so I had an idea where I thought, maybe I'll just do it myself. And my wife kind of doubted me for a minute. And she said, well, let me hear you read the same script that you gave to everyone else who auditioned. And I read it. And then afterwards, I thought for sure she was just going to criticize the hell out of me. And she said, that is by far the best reading of it I've heard. You have to do this yourself. And I said, fuck. No, I'm kidding.
I was
I
doing
was
it.
honestly kind of hoping she would say that I was shit so that I wouldn't have to do it. But I decided I'm just going to go ahead and do it because she's right. I think I know the material better than anybody. I know where the inflection should go. And I think no one's going to do it justice like I would. So.
Well, dude, you also probably like the best reading voice in the business. I'm not just saying that because I'm friends with you. I'm saying it because like your reading, when you do like when I've heard you read, it's just like everything else stops. You know what I mean? So the only people that I've really like, and I may not have seen a ton of people read live, but Jeff Strand is really good. He's had some incredible performances, and I put you like you guys are like next tier with that. You know, so I think it's the right decision.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's just the work of it, though, right? Like it's a huge undertaking, you know. But
4 hours of reading. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to do it in one, 6 hour marathon. It'll probably be an hour at a time. But yeah, it's that is the hardest part.
yes. And I'm going to take a look back at the chat here now. Erica asks in regards to the DM here on TikTok. Yes, here on TikTok is great, but or do you care, Wrath, if they do another like Facebook or something?
I'd prefer it to all be in one spot, but
Okay.
if you guys don't follow directions, I'm I'm okay with Facebook and Instagram also.
And Candace Knoll is here. Hey, Candace, thanks for joining. We appreciate you. She's just been doing amazing things since she burst onto the scene, you know. Really nice, great person, great writer. So it's good to see you, Candace. Veronica says you have the perfect voice, Wrath.
Thank you. I agree.
And what other things has Wrath written? I'm just curious. So he's written quite a few things. He's been writing. I mean, you said you finished your first book, even though it wasn't published, in like the mid '90s, right?
So the first book I wrote was Jakub's Curse, and that was in '94, but it didn't get published until I don't know 2010 or something like that. The first book that I had published was actually this one. I was Succulent Prey. This is the Leisure Books edition. There was a couple years prior to the Leisure Books edition, there was a company that's gone now called Bloodletting Press, and they did an ultra limited edition version of it. Now, to kind of set up the story of Succulent Prey, because I think this shit is funny. When Bloodletting Books released Succulent Prey, it was the first time. Now it's a trope that I see quite often, but this was the first time that there was a book about a cannibal serial killer that was sexy. It had like cannibal sex in it that was actually, I don't know, kind of hot. Like, I wasn't trying to make it hot, but I got, that's the response that I got from a lot of people, that it was sexy and grotesque and gory and everything else along with it. So then I had been submitting to Leisure because back then self-publishing was frowned upon. And even the small presses, even though the small presses are really what had kept horror alive throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, when a lot of the major publishers were shying away from it, still the people who were published by the big New York publishing houses tended to look down on all us indie authors. So so I was going after Leisure Books because they were the big horror imprint at the time. And Don Daria was and I'm probably screwing up his name, Don Daria. He was the chief editor at Leisure Books, and I would run into him at conventions, and I had sent him Pure Hate, which has just come out from Madness Heart Press. I had sent that to him, and I would run into him at conventions. Hey, have you read Pure Hate yet? And he'd say, no, I haven't read that yet. Succulent Prey. Now, Succulent Prey was getting, yeah, there you go. Succulent Prey was getting a lot of reviews for how gruesome and gory and everything else it was. And I'm like, I cannot send this man Succulent Prey. He's going to think I'm a fucking lunatic, and he's never going to publish anything I did again. But years went by. Like every year I would run into him at like World Horror or Horrifying, two conventions where they're both gone now. And he would ask, hey, when are you going to send me Succulent Prey? I'm like, I'm not sending you Succulent Prey, man. And then finally I realized he wasn't going to read anything else. So I kind of, out of spite, sent him the manuscript for Succulent Prey. And then I ran into him at the Stoker Awards about 6 months later. And, I was kind of, again, I was kind of fucking with him. I was like, so what'd you think of Succulent Prey? And I thought he was going to be like, you're fucking sick. What's wrong with you? And he was like, oh, no, we're going to publish that in October. I was like, what? I almost tried to talk him out. I was like, you can't publish that. Are you crazy? And because this was 2008, 2009. And there wasn't, that stuff was not on bookshelves. Not that hardcore. It was not on bookshelves. Not only did he publish it, he put it in their Book of the Month club. So, to this, so little old ladies who are used to, spooky ghost stories and murder mysteries got a cannibal sex novel on their doorstep with no warning. So it was pretty fun. the emails and stuff I got after that release was pretty hilarious.
That's awesome. So what, like, because just to put it in context, it's a different time, right? Where, like you said, self-publishing was frowned upon. It was kind of like it was being done, but it was like you said, it's not a good look almost like to do it. You kind of look Mickey Mouse. Now it's like we have all these tools, and that's kind of what I try to tell writers if they ask anything about publishing now. It's like you have so many advantages, whereas you were like hamstrung by the industry essentially until somebody believed in you. It wasn't like you could just believe in yourself, right? Was that frustrating at all at any point, or?
Together, I figured that it was going to take me about 10 years. I wound up doing it in, I think, 6 or 7. But I figured it was going to take me about 10 years to hit the mass market. And at the time, like I said, there was a kind of a formula. You would kind of build your name up by getting published by magazines like Cemetery Dance and Twilight Zone and all that stuff. And then some of the online magazines that came about, like Delirium and those magazines. You'd kind of build your name up doing that. Then you'd get published by one of the independent presses that were kind of hot at the time. At the time, the biggest one was Delirium. And I noticed that my friend Jesus Gonzalez, when he published with Delirium, right away Leisure picked him up. And I realized that what Delirium was doing was basically, what Leisure Books was using Delirium as kind of their slush pile filter. So they were like, okay, if Delirium publishes them, then we'll publish them. So I made that my strategy. I'm going to get published by Delirium. Wound up being Bloodletting, but I'm going to get published by them. And then sure enough, as soon as I published Succulent Prey through Bloodletting, all of a sudden, now the New York publishing houses are coming, knocking on my door. But that was it. Like when you decided to become a writer, you pretty much were in for the long haul. You were expecting for it to take 10 years at the least to get published. So.
That's crazy to think about. So yeah, so like anybody, because I know we frequently get people who are thinking about starting writing or getting into it. No better time than the present, because there's nobody holding you back anymore. And, you have all these tools like what we're on right now. We have TikTok, we have Facebook, we have the convention scene is pretty good right now too, which, we can talk about that in a second too. But I'm just going to take a look in the chat real quick to see if we have anybody asking questions and stuff. And since we've gone for a little bit here so far, I'm just going to remind anyone who's new to the live that Rabbit Hunt in paperback has been released on Amazon and went live today. If you are interested in the book, that's Rat's latest release. And anyone who makes a purchase on Amazon, if you message Wrath on TikTok, we got 5 audiobook codes for my new book, Through the Eyes of Desperation, the red version. And we have where the hell did I put it? Let me see. Here we go. We have a limited hardcover of Wet Market. There was only 400 of these printed. I kept four for myself. I'm going to be letting someone walk away with that. So there you have it. Just a little reminder there. And an elephant. That's disturbing. But okay, yeah. So let's take a look in the chat real quick. John Lynch says the dialogue in Rabbit Hunt makes it so easy to picture all the characters and shit that's going on. It's some of the most real feeling dialogue as far as conversations go I've read in a while. I love that type of dialogue too. The type that's not overly flowery. It's just real, you know. It-
Writing, I really try to make sure it sounds real. Like I hate dialogue that doesn't sound realistic. You know, when you read it and you go, no one talks that way. So I write it the way a conversation would actually flow, and then I go back and take out all the ums and ahs.
Very nice. And Veronica says third book of Succulent Prey. Is that done? Wrath.
Um, you got to stop asking me that one. No, I'm kidding. Everyone. So you know what's funny was everyone has been asking me about completing the trilogy, and I will. I really will. I had an idea for a final book in the Succulent Prey series, but a friend of ours who I approached with it shot that idea down. It was going to be fucking brilliant, just so you know. But now I got to come up with a different idea. You know?
Well, Clinton the Great, he certainly is great. He said, "Can't wait to check this out. Hardcover ordered." Thank you, Clinton. You fucking rock, man. I said it before. I'll say it again. Uh, Candace says, "Glad to see you guys doing this." Me too. This is awesome. I'm having a great time. We should definitely try to do these things more if we can. Is Pure Hate Vamps? I think based off the cover, right? It's a vampire horror, right?
Well, so Pure Hate is actually a serial killer kind of crime thriller, splatterpunk crime thriller. It just so happens that the serial killer has platinum fangs because it's kind of I don't know. He's a stylish serial killer. You know, I do have, and I don't know if I can. I guess I should ask you, Aaron, if I could talk at all about obituaries, or should I?
You know what? Somebody just asked, is there any chance of an AB or Wrath collab? I think we can. It's a small amount. We just asked the people on this live to kind of keep it in house, and we'll give you something that hasn't been announced yet. Fair enough.
Um, so I do have a novelette in the obituary series that's coming out called it's called Big Titty Goth Chicks. And it that is kind of my vampire novel or novelette, I should say. I don't vampires, but I had a lot of fun doing that one.
That is all. Yeah. People are gonna people are gonna really enjoy that. We got. Do either of you have any tips for aspiring authors in the genre? Things you wish you knew earlier. Um, I'll let you go first, just because you've been doing it for so long. I mean, I would like to hear your response.
Um, put your best work out there. Not your first, not your first novel. Just write, like literally just write. Don't be so eager to publish. Hire a good editor. They're gonna. I mean, when I say a good editor, I don't mean your mom or your best friend or even a fellow writer. I mean someone who is a professional editor who is going to be ruthless and rip your shit apart. Because here's the thing is that you don't have to go through rejections because you're gonna if you're especially if you're self-publishing. The only rejection you're gonna have to deal with is that editor ripping your shit apart, which is only going to make the product better. So do that. Don't skip that step. Do that. Especially if you're going to self-publish it. Do not just go, oh, well, this person was really good in English class. No, no. I mean a professional editor who knows the Chicago Manual of Style forwards. That's what I'm talking about. Do it. Do it. Spend the money. If it's going to cost you $400 or $500, it's much better than to have your first impression from your readers be something that's riddled with errors, with bad grammar, poor word choices, so on and so forth. That's my biggest tip right there. Oh, and I've got one more. This is some advice that was told to me very early on. And it was that no one wants to read another serial killer book, another vampire book, another zombie or werewolf book. But they do want to read the serial killer book, the vampire book, the werewolf book, or the zombie book that only you could have written. So you got to put yourself into these books. Do not try to imitate other people. Find what's unique about yourself and put that into your books.
Great advice. And I totally agree with the editing thing, particularly based on what I experienced early in my career. I think I released 4 books that I edited myself. Great idea, right? And you know, I think in a way it was a blessing because I went back and had those books re-edited, and it was upon the re-release of the Slob that people actually, like, few people actually started to care about my writing. So I mean, that's obviously, evidence enough right there, right? That, and like you said, I think the stuff I learned the most from, because I didn't go to college, I didn't take all these fancy writing courses and things like that. I just have a basic high school education, and having these editors, like you said, you need to be ripped apart, and like you have to learn to like it. You have to learn to be like, I might not use that still, like this suggestion, but just having that abrasive opinion makes me think harder. And maybe even if I don't change it completely, I tweak a few things, And then there's going to be stuff that there's going to be tons of stuff that you're going to change completely. Is that flowers on my head?
Oftentimes, your editor just doesn't get you.
Right.
And that's fine too. I had I had written a scene in 400 Days of Oppression where a guy is picking up a girl in a nightclub, and my editor was like, "That would never happen. That conversation would never happen." It was literally, I just wrote word for word how I had picked up a girl in the nightclub. It was, I really just had rewritten what really happened. And I cracked up when he said that. But this editor was in his 60s at the time. I was like, he hasn't been in a nightclub since the 70s. So I recognize that on that particular subject, he was probably a little out of touch. And I just kind of ignore that suggestion. So you'll have some of that. But for the most part, you got to let them tear you down so you can build yourself up.
Absolutely. And when I was doing the Written and Read podcast, Lucas Mangum came on that podcast one time, and he gave an interesting piece of advice too. That was always like, he was saying, sometime, like, you don't necessarily have to listen to every piece of advice too. Sort of listen to analyze all advice, really listen to the stuff that resonates with you, and then kind of also put your own spin on things. Like you said, you got to bring something new to the table. So it's just not the same old regurgitation that we've seen a million times,
The other thing is, don't be afraid to step outside of the box that you've created. Don't allow yourself to be pigeonholed. One of the things that I think really killed horror in the 80s was that people started just imitating themselves. You're like, all right, I'm gonna pick on Dean Koontz, okay? So you're Dean Koontz, all right, and you know what your readers expect of you. So you just kind of just keep cranking out pretty much slightly different versions of the same book over and over and over again. Don't fall into that trap. Allow your creativity to flow, and just the readers are going to have their expectations. They're going to have the things that they want to see from you. And usually it's going to be, they want to see the first book that they fell in love with from you over and over and over and over again.
That's insane.
Until one day they go, well, this motherfucker is just writing the same book over and over. Yeah, because that's what you kept asking for. You know, don't allow them to put you into that box. You know, just play, just have fun. You got to enjoy this, or else it becomes just drudgery, and you don't want that. You got to love what you do, because the readers will feel if you're loving what you're doing, and they'll feel if you're just phoning it in.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I think one other just to wrap up, and we'll keep moving on because there's a lot of comments in here. Thank you so much, everybody, for being so interactive. We're going to get to more people right away. But this is just a fun topic. I love it. So just because like I learned so much, like, listening to you talk at KillerCon and like, so, so many other people have helped me along the way. And one thing that I kind of, they're pillars that I made for myself. I'm demonic now. This is they're pillars that I made for myself, and my three things were consistency, control, and kindness. So like consistency, as in like if you're planning on starting a writing career, I look at it as like the hamster wheel has started. So it might behoove you to finish a few pieces in advance and really like have a good feeling about them before you release that first one, so that you can then sort of factory line them and keep the people coming back. And I found that that was really beneficial in my career, just being at least even while I'm learning, because we're always learning. And then control, meaning, I'm showing self-control online, right? I'm not getting into silly altercations, even sometimes to a fault. I might say too little, right? But I'd rather say too little than too much personally. And like, and I look at control too as twofold. Like also copyright, like own your IP. You know what I mean? Be in control of it, because then you're on a path quicker to hopefully writing full time if you're getting all your royalties as you should. And then kindness is obvious, because it's the easiest thing to do, but so many people don't do it, and it's just it's not that hard, and people like that. If they like you as a person, I think you're more likely to have a shot. So I'm a jump back down into this. We have tons of people commenting, guys. Thank you very much. Um, Hey, Aaron, can't wait to get my high roller bundle. Thank you, Camille. Appreciate you ordering. Good luck when you flip the coin. Sarah says, "What's the hardest book you've written? One that you struggle with, and why was it so hard to write?" Wrath, I'll let you take that one.
So I had signed a 3-book deal with an Australian publisher to write zombie novels. And they wanted Romero-esque zombie novels, slow zombies, right? Remember what I said about writing the book that only you could write? Well, as an ex-fighter, I thought, wouldn't it be great to have people fighting zombies in a cage? And so I set out to write that book, but this publisher had specifically said slow zombies. And I was trying to imagine me in a cage with a slow zombie, and I'm like, I would rip it to fucking shreds. Like, that's not a fight, like that wouldn't even be competitive. And I struggled and struggled and struggled, and then finally I wrote to the editor, and I said, the publisher, and I said, I can't do this. Now, actually, all right, I didn't write to that publisher. I actually wrote it on a blog post. And I didn't name the publisher. I just was like, I cannot do this. This is ridiculous. I'm going to return this publisher's money, so on and so forth, in this long blog post. And then the publisher reached out to me and said, hey, just write the book that you want to write. Keep the advance. Just do your thing. And so I wrote To the Death. I made the zombies fast. I made them retain some of their previous skills, so they weren't just shambling around. And it wound up being pretty good. But that was about a 50,000 word book, and it took me longer than an 80,000 word book to write. So that was a slog.
Feels good to get it done, though, right? So there's always that euphoria after you're finally finished. So Jim asks, have you been going through your books on Amazon? Made a ton of on my buy list. Okay. Sorry, that wasn't really a question. Let me just refresh here. Okay. All right, these are some more recent questions. Let me see. I had to move off my laptop onto the phone. Out of all the books you've both written, what's been your favorite? What was your favorite, Ralph?
Um, so here's the hard part about writing, um, and when people ask this question, uh, we can't be honest. We just can't, okay? Because here's the thing: if I say my favorite book I've ever written was the book I wrote 20 years ago, that implies that I haven't made any progress, that I haven't improved as a writer. My answer is always going to be the book I just wrote. Rabbit Hunt is the book that I think is my favorite because it's the one I wrote. All right. Now here's the true answer. um, Yakub's Curse, because it was the first book I ever wrote. And the story behind Yakub's Curse was I was 24 years old. I was expecting my first child, and I was working as a bouncer at a nightclub. And I thought, when my son gets of age and he goes to school and people ask him, "What does your dad do for a living?" I didn't want him to reply, "He's a bouncer at a nightclub." So I had gone to school for writing, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if my son could answer, "My dad's an author"? I also was training in kickboxing and Muay Thai, and so I also decided to turn pro. So I started writing my first novel, and I turned pro as a kickboxer because I wanted my son to have something that he could be proud of. So when people ask, "What does your dad do for a living?" He's an author and a kickboxer. And so that first book was Yakub's Curse. And for that reason, that's one of my favorites.
Wow, that's a good reason, dude. That's cool. Oh man, we got a lot of people. Thanks everybody for the engagement. We've been like over 80 people the whole time, pretty much. So thank you. And for anyone who's maybe joining and dropping in and out, just want to remind you guys again that Rath's new book, Rabbit Hunt, has dropped in paperback on Amazon. And as a thank you to everyone who's joined us, if anyone does want to grab a copy, there's going to be 5 audiobook codes of my new book, Through the Eyes of Desperation, and 1 hardcover, limited, out of print, wet market. There's only 4 of these left, and I have them. Those are going to go to people who want to check out the paperback Rabbit Hunt. Just be sure to shoot Wrath a message and let him know that you did grab it, and we will make sure you're eligible for the drawing. So let me see here. What else do we got? Actually, you know what? Since it might be a good time to talk about KillerCon now. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so for those of you who don't know, KillerCon is a horror convention that began in Las Vegas and now it's in Austin, Texas. And I consider it like the home of Splatterpunk and Bizarro because I think it's starting to change now, but a lot of horror conventions, there's 2 problems. One is that they tend to focus more on traditional literary or quiet horror. And 2 is that a lot of them also share space with the movie industry. And so you kind of get pushed aside by actors, and mostly actors, not even directors, the famous actors who are just signing pictures of their face. Meanwhile, you've just spent a year or 2 laboring over a book, and you kind of get tucked into the corner. I wanted to have a convention where people who wrote more alternative types of horror, like Bizarro and Splatterpunk, extreme horror, would feel like the superstars and feel center stage. and where they wouldn't be upstaged by actors. So that's why I started KillerCon back in 2009. Then when I moved to Austin, I moved KillerCon with me. And the other thing about KillerCon is, unlike a lot of writers' conventions, it's not all stuffy. You don't have this distance between you and the writers. We all move as one. There's one track of programming, so you're never trying to decide, do I want to go to this panel or this reading? We all move together. We eat together. We drink together. There's a party room where we all get drunk and party together. So it's about as intimate of a convention as you're going to find, and we deliberately keep it limited to 200 attendees, so you're not going to get lost in a sea of people. And we don't even invite authors who are not willing to eat and drink with the readers and fans. We don't even invite them. If they're that type of person who wants to be on the other side of the table for the entire convention and never interact with the readers, we don't do that. KillerCon also has, like, it's kind of known for the crazy contests. So we have the gross out contest where people like me and Aron get up and read our nastiest, grossest thing. And then we have a panel of judges that judge it. And that's open to anyone who wants to sign up. So we have that. We have a Wings of Pain challenge, which is a challenge where Shane McKenzie, who I don't know if he's still on here, he hosts that, and we make him eat every piece of every sauce that the contestants eat. So by the end of the Wings of Pain challenge, he's almost incoherent, which is hilarious. He's in so much damn pain he can barely host, so he has no choice.
More red and more sweaty as it goes on. It's just.
I think we almost killed Lucas one year. Like, Lucas's face is probably the best part of that. Like, he looks like he is literally being tortured on stage. It's awesome. And then 1 year we did One Punch for Wrath, where you had to answer a trivia question, and if you got it wrong, I punched you in the arm. And that was fun because we had Jeff Strand, who's about the size of my middle finger. He was competing, and when I punched him, he like flew across the room. It was wonderful.
You know what else I thought was really awesome too was like, because the first time I saw it in person was last year, was like the lighting of the candle for all the legends and stuff. Could you talk about that for a second too? So I thought that was awesome. You know.
Hall of Legends is for people who have passed, writers, and we actually have some editors and publishers as well, who have really contributed to the genre and to making it what it is, and have left us. So we kind of memorialize them every year at the Hall of Legends at KillerCon. And it gets pretty emotional. We just lost a dear friend, Weston Oaks, this year, and so he will be inducted this year. Last year it was Jay Wilburn. I believe the year prior was Dave Barnett, who, for people who've been around for a while, Necro Publications, who published all of Ed Lee's stuff. Necro was one of the things that kept Splatterpunk alive and really brought it to the forefront. And Dave Barnett ran Necro Publications pretty much solo. And so when he passed, he was memorialized. And so we do this every year, not just inducting the new people, but we also light a candle for everyone who's been inducted so far. And so, yeah, so that's a part of it. And I almost forgot about the Splatterpunk Awards. So one of the big highlights of KillerCon is the Splatterpunk Awards. And pretty much every book that you've read this year has been at least recommended. Every Splatterpunk, disgusting, vicious, gory, nasty book that you've picked up gets recommended. The ones with the most recommendations move on to our nomination list, and then we have a panel of judges who read all the top nominees and then pick winners. And they get what we call a Bernie, which is a statue of a guy with a of a zombie with a hatchet in his head. Aaron's got a Bernie. That's right. Yep.
Very cool. It's the coolest looking award I ever seen. You know, beautiful. Honestly, the way they're made and painted and everything is beautiful.
Yeah, there's a young lady who hand paints those. Every last one of those is hand painted, and I don't pay her, so it's awesome. She does it for just the love, and I think that's amazing.
That's incredible. Because seriously, like I don't know, it means a lot, a hell of a lot to me. You know, so that it's just cool that like the passion is just like a circular. You know, it's like just being reciprocated. But yeah, no, I think it was so cool to be able to hear. The great thing is too for other authors, kind of like getting their feet wet, and you're thinking about going. I really urge you to because it's also a great opportunity to learn about history, and you will get to be in the room and listen to people like Rath, Brian Keene, Shane, guys who have been around for a while, and you'll hear stories of people who aren't here anymore, and you get to kind of like almost know what it was like to be around a little bit, even though you never will be. But I thought that was just the coolest thing, just to hear the stories and the love you guys show for each other.
We talked about our struggles. We talk about how the genre's changed, and there's a lot of information on, like we've talked a little bit about the business of writing, and we talk about the craft of writing, and there's workshops on just becoming a better writer, becoming a better businessman in the writing world, all of that. So I think it's invaluable, whether you write splatterpunk, whether you write bizarro, or even if you do write traditional horror. We welcome everybody. We've had paranormal romance authors there. So it's not, you don't have to be a gorehound, but it helps.
It helps, yeah. You never know, like the whole just the cross pollination of ideas. It's great, and partnerships are made at these things. Sometimes too, you'll see you walk in and then you walk out, and suddenly you're working with somebody. And you're just learning so much from that person's experience and vice versa. So yeah, these are particularly this event, like you said, because it's the only one that's truly for us. Even though we're welcoming of others, it's just really cool that there's something special like that for us. So I saw some people asking in the chat where it is. So Austin, Texas, for the foreseeable future, right, Rad?
You can just go to www.killerconaustin.com. www.killerconaustin.com, and you can register. You can see everybody who's our guests of honor. We've got Christopher Triana, Daniel Volpe, CV Hunt. I'm missing somebody. For next, yes, the JF Gonzalez Lifetime Achievement Award winners for next year or this year now, is Ray Garden and Craig Spector from the legendary duo Skip and Spector. So they're going to get Lifetime Achievement Awards, and yeah, it's going to be amazing. And we went to a new hotel last year, and we're going to be back at that same hotel this year, because the old hotel was kind of nasty. But now we're being treated like actual celebrities, and we're going to have a beautiful hotel that's right in downtown Austin. So
absolutely, no, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait, and I think actually, since we're a little ways through, I'm just going to remind people, because we've had people joining and leaving. So Rath's new book, Rabbit Hunt, has just dropped in paperback on Amazon. And my new book, it's available in audio. There's Rabbit Hunt, yep. So if you grab a paperback, be sure to shoot Rath a direct message and let him know. Because 5 audiobook codes for Through the Eyes of Desperation, and then one of these out-of-print hardcovers that there's only 400 of. people are going to be eligible just by grabbing a paperback of Rabbit Hunt. So be sure to DM and support Wrath. It's a big release, so I'm sure we've seen a lot of people already say that they've ordered. So everybody who has, thank you so much. It really does mean the world. Like this, a lot goes into this, you know. We really do appreciate it. And speaking of events, Wrath, so there's also another event that's coming up, Scares That Care. That's a great charity event that helps uh, families with ailing children. I believe they do three different families each year. And my God, the list of people that is going, and I know Wrath and I are both going to be attending, but this has got to be one of the largest horror conventions, probably like at least in the country, if not the world. Like it's massive.
World Horror went away. There's been StokerCon and AuthorCon, or Scares That Care. So AuthorCon is basically what Scares That Cares has become, and it's kind of the new World Horror now, because World Horror is no more, and it's the only place where you're going to see a huge collection of authors, not just splatterpunk authors, but every type of horror. And it's a lot of fun. I'll be selling a shit ton of books, so bring lots of money if you come.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I don't. Are you doing any panels or readings or anything? Or
I believe so, but I'm not. I haven't. I don't think they've put out the programming list yet.
okay, cool. Yeah, because I'm gonna probably do some panels too. So if you guys want to come and see us talk as well, I mean, obviously it's not just us, of course. The list is literally it's ridiculous. Like, go on to Facebook, check out the Scares That Care group, so you can see the list and you can get more details on coming by. That's in Williamsburg, Virginia. So if you want that more, the more intimate sort of thing, KillerCon is definitely the place to go, especially for authors getting their feet wet. Definitely go to KillerCon. It's killerconaustin.com, right, Raf? So definitely go there. And then Scares That a lot of reader and writer interaction there as well. A lot of the writers just kind of hang out around the bar and throughout this good sized hotel there in Williamsburg. So that one's very interactive as well. But KillerCon is, it's a more almost like you say, like a family reunion style sort of thing. And so they're both great for different reasons. But I'm going to head back to the chat real quick just because we haven't checked on you guys in a couple. Sorry about that. Let me look at some of the more recent stuff. It says, I'm excited for Scares. I'm going to have to buy a portable cart for all the books I'm buying. That's what Shauna says. Yeah, I've literally seen people wheeling like mass carts of books and just like laying out like 10 books for an author. And yeah, we're more than happy to sign them whether you buy anything or not. So please bring what you got too. Let's see. I hope I can make those panels. We hope so too. Amaya says, I can't wait to see both of you. Oh, Amaya Royal. Hey, Amaya. Amaya's a very nice young lady. I believe she just got married and graduated from college, but I know her so well because she did make a viral video of Playground and ended up going over 1 million views. So I'm looking forward to giving you whatever you want from my table for nothing. So please stop by, Amaya. Would you? Oh, here you go. Wrath, would you ever make a box set of all your work?
Ooh, that would be one hell of a box set. I've got probably over 30 books out, so yeah.
What about maybe just like certain ones of a certain tone, maybe? I don't know. It's like it seems like a lot of work though for me.
I could see a box set of like my leisure book releases. So The Resurrectionist, Succulent Prey, and then I would have to put Prey Drive in there because it's the sequel. I could definitely see doing a box set like that.
Yeah,
So
that would be cool. Sure. Thank goodness I'm driving KillerCon. I'll bring an extra suitcase. Awesome. We look forward to seeing you there. Are there any writing workshops you both recommend? Wrath, I'll let you take that one.
Um, this is hard because the one I used to recommend, I no longer recommend. um, but Mort Castle, whenever you can see Mort Castle do one, definitely look him up. We did have him come to KillerCon once and do a writers workshop. Gabino, he does writers workshops every once in a while. Michael Nost also, I believe.
Oh yeah, Michael did one at KillerCon on editing, and that was really good. That was awesome.
Those would be the ones that I would recommend off the top of my head.
Have you ever done Neocon, or have you heard of that one? That's like the one where they stay overnight and like, I'm sorry, what was it?
I mean, Nikon.
Nikon. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Nikon.
yeah, I've done that one. So, yeah, I've got some stories on Nikon. So when I did it, Nikon back when Jack Ketchum, and he was kind of big brothering me the whole time because I was, probably about to make some mistakes. And, there were a lot of because there's a lot of great writers there, but you also get some groupies that show up, and you know, I needed somebody to hold me back. Put it that way.
Uh, awesome. Yeah, because that one still goes, I think, from what I understand, right? It's still so.
Yeah, and it's great because again, just like with KillerCon, KillerCon I actually modeled it a little bit after Nikon because I wanted a kind of a Nikon West, 'cause that's why I put it in Las Vegas. But I also again wanted it to be a little bit more welcoming to those of us who write the nasty gory stuff. But it's just like KillerCon. It's smaller, more intimate. I believe they do cap it. I can't remember what the cap is, but they do limit it to I think 200, 250 people. And they used to do a roast where they would roast an author every year, and they stopped doing that for some reason, probably because somebody got their feelings hurt, I imagine. But that used to be a lot of fun. I was there when they roasted Jack Ketchum, and I was there the next year when they were roasting. Oh God, I can't remember who it was, but it turned into another roast of Jack Ketchum, which was awesome.
That's what I heard. I heard I've never been, but I heard like they roast hard. That's what I heard. But Eve has joined. Thank you, Eve. She puts out a lot of great reviews for all different kinds of extreme horror author books. So thank you. Thanks for joining, Eve. Um, Amber says, after I started reading your books, I started carrying throwing stars. I'm always prepared. That's pretty awesome. Uh, let's see. Would you ever do a horror author book tour like with a few of your favorite guys? Um, did, this is something I'll start on this one if you don't mind. Just because it's something that I considered because driving out to St. Louis for the other Scares That Care later this year, they're doing one in St. Louis too, so I decided to take the plunge and do it. Um, I was considering maybe making like one stop along the way potentially. Initially, I wanted to do a few though, and make it since such a long drive, maybe try and do a couple. But it's just a lot of coordination. That's the only thing. And being an indie author, it's not like every bookstore is like, "Oh yeah, come on in." We'd love to have you. Some of them don't even carry our stuff. So it just it depends. It depends, but I'd like to, but I don't know if it's fiscally responsible. What about you, Raph?
So I've never done one. I remember when my first leisure book release, when Succulent Prey came out, Brian Keene was touring all over the country, and he's like, "You should join me. You should join me." I'm like, "Man, I don't have time for all that." So I'll join you at one, but I would have loved to, but man, I don't have that kind of endurance. and definitely not now that 20 years have passed. My joints don't operate the same.
Right. Oh, I hear you, man. Being in a car for a while, it's like, it wears on you. We got another question. Well, actually, I don't think this is a question, but it says, "You guys are the reason I actually got into writing. So stoked to drop some stuff. Love all your stuff," says Mr. Splatter. Thanks, buddy. Good luck. And yeah, we hope to see you maybe at one of these events in the future.
I think
Definitely.
Killer Khan actually.
What's that?
I said I think he would love Killer Khan. He'd fit right in.
Oh, totally. Yeah, he's totally into the hardcore side for sure. With a name like Mr. Splatter, how can you not be? uh, Eve says, "I would love an overnight con." Yeah, that's pretty. Well, I mean, KillerCon's kind of like an overnight con actually too. It really is because what? It's 3 days. Friday night, people definitely hang out until the late evening and everything, and then Saturday's kind of like the crazy night where I know you guys typically get those couple of rooms, and it's a true party atmosphere, right?
As much as we talked about, like at most conventions, you can kind of hang out at the bar, and that's where you're going to meet everyone. At KillerCon, there is a bar, but we also have parties Friday and Saturday night that go into the wee hours, and we supply the alcohol, so they get pretty fun.
And Kay McKenzie is usually the last one, uh, just completely inebriated, looking sideways.
John Skip tuck him in bed last year. I think somebody had to tuck him in bed. It was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, and that's the great thing because it's like just all the authors are hanging out up there and readers are hanging out, and it's good clean fun, and everyone's chill. If anybody gets out of line, I see that shit get straightened right out fast anyway. So it's a great environment. We got quite a few questions here. So I've been to AuthorCon. I'll be going this year. I need to party with everyone. Absolutely, Eve. I know Eve. Yeah, Eve stopped by 1 year. So we definitely look forward to hanging out with you. Um, what is the grossest book you have read from another author? Wrath. Ask Bookish.
So I tried to get through one of Edward Lee's books that it was one of his collections, and there was a story in it called The Dryptophilus, and I couldn't get through that short story at all. That one was just too much for me. And it's a guy who had like a fetish for mucus, and yeah, it was. I could not even. I think I got like maybe 2 or 3 pages into that. That was too much for me. Lee brings it hard. In fact, when Lee and I collaborated on the Teratologist, he wrote the first chapter, and when he sent it to me, I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "How the fuck do I follow this?" It was the fucking most vile thing I'd ever read, and he was like, "All right, your turn." So we just went back and forth. If you get a copy of the Teratologist, you'll see what I mean. So that was probably the first chapter of the Teratologist is up there with probably the one of the nastiest things I've ever read.
Oh yeah, the Ted Lee. He takes it to the next level. He wrote some pretty nasty shit in the obituaries too that involved jellyfish going into orifices. So, um, I'd like to talk real quick about Substack Wrath because I know you're doing Words of Wrath, right?
So Words of Wrath was actually originally my blog on Blogspot. For those of you who have gray in your beard, probably remember Blogspot back in the Blogger back in the day, and I resurrected it on Substack, and I talk a lot about the industry. Um, I used to get a little bit more personal and talk more about myself as well. So far, I've mostly been concentrating on tips for writers, particularly independent art writers, horror authors, splatterpunk authors, those type of things. So I talk a lot about do's and don'ts, advice, etiquette. My last blog post was on etiquette. So yeah, yeah. So if you're on Substack, go ahead and please follow me because I think there is some value to it. And it's not just, you don't have to be a writer. I do tend to speak to writers a lot on there, but I write about other shit as well.
Oh no, I've read some of yours that are like talking about like your personal experiences while you were writing a book, or like you kind of pull the curtain back on some like origin stuff where things started. It's a good mix, you know.
Yeah, I did go real personal when I talked about my book Pure Hate,
Right.
because that had a lot of stuff with my teenage broken heart back in the 80s. I kind of brought a lot of that back. So
Yeah, dude, that was intense. Um, I like to use it too to do stuff that's why I think Substack's unique, and I wanted to bring it up because we both have Substack profiles, and I feel like Substack's like different than other social media. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like a little more comfortable with just like sharing certain things that I probably like normally wouldn't on social media there. So, if you guys want more of that sort of content, like I did a large written piece about my father when he passed away. Some stuff like wrath, just like mistakes I've made personally, or like, any advice I can give, or also it's a great way to learn about other people who I'm interested in. Ed Lee, I corresponded with him sometimes, and he sent me like a cool little update on some different projects that he was working on that I included. I included a piece about Wrath when he joined. So like, if you have any interest in hearing about others in the community and like branching out too, it's a great way. And the great thing is too is like you never lose connection with us because you subscribe with an email, and therefore if we get banned on some other platform for something that's bullshit, or a silly rule, we're always going to be there. So yeah. Let me take a look. Um, I'm an idiot. What is Substack? No, you're not. It's a relatively, it's not the most popular platform, but it's basically a place where we can write longer pieces, include pictures, videos, voiceovers. Like Wrath said, it's kind of like a souped up blog almost, where you could really go off. And the great thing about it is though is that if you're subscribed to it, um, when a new post comes out, we usually don't beat you over the head with them. We tend to do them every couple weeks or a month or something like that. And you'll get notified via your email too. And I do my sales and stuff through there too, like because those are my diehards that are subscribed there. So like, I'm sure Wrath, we will send like promo codes sometimes and stuff like that too. So you get a little bit more off for being the diehards that you are. Let's see here. So Wrath, you still good to go a little bit longer?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, we have an audience, so it's like may as well. So guys, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We can start taking a look at any questions you guys have. But one of the other things that I was interested in asking you about, Wrath, was what's your opinion on AI and the evolution of technology? I just thought it'd be an interesting topic.
I wish AI had a neck that I could squeeze. um, so we actually did a panel on AI at KillerCon where we had an AI on the had subscribed to ChatGPT and had the AI answering questions live on the panel. And before the panel began, he did a thing where he asked the AI to write a book synopsis in the style of Wrath James White. It was terrifying how good it was. It sounded like me. It really did. It really sounded like something I would have written. And that was terrifying. Now, it was very long winded, and I'm not. But other than that, and, I think we need to put our foot down on that because, listen, writing is hard. It definitely is. But it's worthwhile. If you use AI to cheat, first of all, you're making it okay for publishers to publish AI books. And you might be using it right now to cheat, to get a book out there faster, but eventually it's going to replace you if you continue to utilize it. It's going to replace you. And that's not what we want artificial intelligence for. We want them to do our bullshit day jobs. We want to be able to still write and create. We don't want it to take away what makes us human, which is the ability to create, our imaginations, all of those things. We don't want that watered down into some X's and O's in a computer. So I guess it's obvious I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I think it's the beginning of the end for us if we continue to utilize that or in any way endorse it.
Yeah, I kind of it came up on the last live I was doing with Dan, and I kind of went on a bit of a rant too, which is rare for me. But I was like, the thing of it is you have to be very careful, even with the cover stuff. You know what I mean? Like, because there's a whole set of artists that are depending on book covers. You know what I mean? People that are like doing it themselves, not taking the shortcut. And I understand the allure of it. Like you said though, and this is what Substack, like art is not supposed to be easy. You know what I mean? Like it's supposed to be hard. It's the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it, the thought, the hours and hours of reassessing the pieces and putting them back together until it makes what you want it to. And I just think, particularly if there's anyone here that's sort of like new and getting into this, just don't go down that path. Use your imagination. We don't want imagination to die off, and you'll just lose all respect amongst any real writer if you tinker with you'll be blackballed essentially.
It's like art is about self-expression. Um, there's a cathartic component to art. A lot of my books originated as arguments. In fact, when I was my happiest in life, I didn't write much. like I was in love, I was, comfortable economically, so on and so forth. And that's just not the ideal environment for creating art. How can I write under those conditions? So, having a way to express yourself when things aren't going well or when you are angry about the state of the world, is valuable. But if you're just pressing a button, you're not cathartic in that. You're not expressing yourself. You're not leaving your stamp on the world, other than just your name on some shit you didn't create.
Yeah, and it's like we talk, and some people may listen to this and be like, well, who cares if just a couple people do that? But we gotta think in the context of oversaturation too, and like if AI gets to a point where the writing is decent enough that people are just uploading and flooding the market with AI books, you know what I mean? Then the the visibility for the people who are sitting there for half a year, and just racking their brains over a story to try and put out, they're going to be overlooked. It's going to be tougher for them to succeed, and writing as a whole may become less respected. People may lose interest. So,
Or 80s, when in the 80s was horror's big heyday, and where guys like us were getting $60,000 advances for a first novel, but the market got saturated, and it got saturated with, like I said earlier, where the repetitive stuff. where people were not showing originality. They were finding a formula and just following the formula and cranking out books. Well, taxed the consumer, they were no longer, they felt taken advantage of, and they stopped buying books. And it got to the point where in the 90s, the horror sections in bookstores disappeared. And writers were afraid to call themselves horror writers. They would list themselves as thriller writers or psychological thriller writers or whatever, but they wouldn't call themselves horror writers because people were fucking sick of horror because it got so oversaturated in the 80s. Now, with AI, that could happen not over the course of a decade. That could happen over the course of months. So it's a big hazard for us.
It really is. It really is. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad we talked about it because it's one of the things that I don't know. It bothers me to think about it. Going down that path because I just want to see stuff stay original. But let's take a look at some of these questions. Is it because I see a lot of people putting questions in there? Thank you very much, everyone. Before we do that, though, I just want to remind people Rabbit Hunt, Rath's new book, is on Amazon in paperback. It just went live today because we might have some other people that joined. 5 audiobook codes of my new book, Through the Eyes of Desperation, and 1 hardcover, limited to 400, no longer in print, of Wet Market. All you got to do is show your support. If you're interested in Rabbit Hunt, shoot Rath a message to let him know that you got your copy and you will be entered. And someone's walking away with it. So, all right. Let's see. So I'm going to take a look at some of these other questions, Rath. AI should be doing the non-creative, backbreaking work, not art. Yeah. And I think, they're like, not to totally bash AI, like, there's sometimes some things that people are trying to learn with like curing cancer and shit like that. Like, so it may have some like really like beneficial aspects, but it's not art though. And to put that as your guise, you know what I mean? That you're somehow an artist because you crank out book covers that you tell a machine to make or, words. It's just, it's a slap in the face to everybody else, quite frankly, that's putting in the time. Let's see. So Eve says I've written 3 short stories, but I'm too nervous to show anyone. How do you guys get over that? Ooh, that's a good one. Rath, you want to take that one?
All right, so I'm going to tell you a story. When I was 17 years old, I went to the Creative and Performing Arts High School in Philadelphia. I went to school with Boys to Men, with the Roots, the Goats, dancers, actors, all these people, and then there was us, the creative writers, tucked in a corner and ignored. And I wanted to put the writers on the map, so I started submitting short stories. And I got a very nasty rejection from a magazine called Night Cry. And I did not submit another short story so I was 17. I didn't submit another short story for publication until I was 29, almost 30. Those years back. Those were probably some of my most creative years that I gave up because I was afraid, because I got my feelings hurt by that one rejection. You have to develop a tough skin. You just have to accept that you're going to get some rejections. And the way to get around that is submit a short story and then forget about it and start writing the next one. Submit that, forget about that, start writing the next one, and just rinse and repeat. When you get the rejections, by the time you get one rejection, you've already got 3 or 4 other short stories out there. And so you get 1 or 2 rejections, you get an acceptance. And more importantly, though, sometimes you're going to get an editor who's going to tell you why they rejected it. Not all the time, because they get tons of submissions, and a lot of them don't have time to give you more than not right for me or not right for us at this time. But every once in a while, you're going to get one who says, this was very close, Only thing I didn't like about it was this particular character or this point of view switch or whatever. And you're going to get, that's going to be valuable information that's going to help you grow as a writer. I think that process is necessary as a writer. Uh, and definitely getting used to rejections is necessary.
Yeah, and I would agree, Wrath. Like sometimes uh one thing you could do too is if you end up paying an editor, right? Like if you're truly serious and this is what you want to do, I would really, get your feet wet. Don't, like you said, Wrath, don't wait. Go dive right in if you know, and you've already written some stuff, so that's awesome. That's half the battle. Now, um, sometimes if you have a lot of corrections in a document, you can even turn off the corrections and just read it as the editor has changed it. Because seeing all this red and all these changes in the document might be a little bit overwhelming at first. But sometimes you could reread it first just without the corrections. But eventually you are going to have to look at them and sort of face them. But it gets easier, I promise. That's the thing, right, Wrath? Like it sucks the first however many times, and even later on, sometimes there's stuff that might perturb you a little bit, or you might just be like, oh, because there is that you can't respond to the editor. It's not like you can justify, why this should have been, right? It's like,
Don't do that. You get a rejection letter. Don't get on the computer and email that motherfucker and be like, "Motherfucker, this is the best writing ever. You're an idiot. How can you genius?" You will get blackballed throughout the industry. Don't say thank you. Don't say you're an asshole. Don't respond at all. Get the rejection. Move on.
yeah.
Um,
I made that mistake one time too of just thanking someone and being like, "Oh, I'm looking forward to the issue," like, and they tore my ass up, and I was like, "Okay, so I guess that's an etiquette thing. I fucked that up."
you know, we live and we learn.
Yeah, yeah. But that's a great question. Yeah, Eve. And if you want, we could probably even if you message me, we could probably suggest some people to take a first look at stuff for you, like people who I know that are solid editors and fair, reasonable rates. So if that's something that interests you, I would just do it because the sooner you get through that, you might realize you're addicted to it, and you're like, oh, now, because that was how it was with me. Like when I got my first book, I was just like, there's no looking back now. I was just on a warpath. So, let's see. Are there times where you thought the gore you wrote went too far? Asks Nicole.
Yes. Yes. So when I wrote Population Zero, which has like forced abortions and forced sterilizations. There's a scene where the guy gives a man a vasectomy, and I was expecting a huge backlash from that one, and I did get a little bit of it. In fact, one of the editors said he didn't want the book in his house. you know? so, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty hardcore book. It's pretty, and with the whole abortion debate being what it is anyway, having someone giving people forced abortions, I was kind of courting controversy a little bit there, but but yeah, I did it. Fuck it.
Hey, you know what? If it's part of the story and you know what I mean, and it's the story, right? It's like that's just part of it, and it's like that's what people can look up trigger warnings and stuff if they think it's too much for them. We have those tools now, so yeah, I think that's what we do, though, right? We kind of go that next step that people won't. It's fun. I don't know. So it's kind of becomes difficult to almost come up with stuff after a while, when you've been doing when you've written so much. Like you've been writing so long. I can't imagine how many like murder scenes you've written, like if you tallied your body count. Like what do you think it would be?
Probably insane. You know? But this is the beautiful thing about like life, and this is my would be my third piece of advice to writers is go out there and live, because that's where a lot of your creativity and inspiration is going to come from. It's just real life. So I mentioned that a lot of my arguments. Population Zero is a perfect example of one. 400 Days of Oppression, even Rabbit Hunt. They all kind of were inspired by disagreements where someone says, I think this. And I'm like, not only do I think this, I can tell you how wrong you are by doing a kind of hypothetical situation taken to the extreme and show you what that slippery slope that you're on would lead to. And of course, I exaggerate the hell out of it and make it as bloody and nasty as possible. But yeah, I mean, that's living and talking to people and experiencing new things is going to make you a better writer and lead to better kills.
Oh, I agree 100%, dude. And it's like all the moments when I'm like, oh, like me and my wife drove across country, right? And I was just like, holy shit! Like just having all this experience, seeing all these different areas, all the as a writer, your mind's just going insane, and you get all these ideas. So, yeah, getting out there. I used to like to go and stay in like weird places too, like Lizzie Borden house, Conjuring House, wherever I could go that was like a weird. I visited like a prison that's no longer active in West Virginia where all these atrocities happened. If you can find your area or that's a short drive away, because yeah, you'll there'll be other people on these in these places. I like kind of politely eavesdrop sometimes too, and just try to understand how people talk. And like you said, with the realistic dialogue, it's important to stay in touch with that stuff. So I agree with you, man.
Still, I'll hear a conversation and someone will say something really cool, and I'll be over there. And sometimes I'll tell them, like, that's been the big joke. Like, even, with my friends and family, I'm like, yep, that's going in a book. Someone will say something. Because, I think it's hilarious. But even, like, true crime, like, you'll hear, like, you think that you're thinking of, like, the most gruesome, violent shit. And then I watch serial killer documentaries and true crime to relax. So, you'll think you've come up with the most gruesome shit imaginable, and then you find out someone has done worse. You know?
I'm the same way, dude. Like I go to sleep listening. Oh, just some tales of murder of people in real life. It's so I'm so desensitized. I think but and that's the thing. That's why it's like cool. Different inspiration is always useful. We got a question here. How do I find an editor? I think a great way to is to and I'll let you answer too, obviously, Rath, but integrating yourself in the horror community. A lot of people are online. So, asking around in some of those different groups can be helpful on Facebook. Also, take a look inside, your books, right? Usually the editors are credited. So you might be able to, if you find a book that you like the style of how it read, you might be able to reach out to someone that way. And I've also, I mean, these events too, Wrath, right? There's editors, KillerCon, that'd be a great one to go to if you're really looking to find someone that's going to be like your go-to person. What do you think?
One of the things that we talked about earlier was that the times that we live in, social media has given you a great resource. When I first started out, you would have to like write a letter and wait for a response, And now with social media, you can shoot a message to Aaron or me or anyone else and say and just ask them what would be a good editor, and they can put you in touch with them. And we're all nice guys, unless you're in a dark alley with us. So we'll respond and put you in touch with the right people. And not just us. Don't everybody just bombard us. I mean, any of your favorite writers And like Aaron said, if you open the books, a lot of times in the acknowledgments, we'll acknowledge the editors that we use. Monica O'Rourke, Lisa Lee Tome. Lisa Lee Tome is one I
Good
use.
editor too. Yeah.
What was that?
Christine Morgan too. She's good.
Judith Sonnet is doing some editing as well. So there's a lot of Cody Boy. There's a lot of good editors out there, and just ask around. Just ask around. That's the best, because if you just Google it, there's also a lot of scammers out there. So you want to make sure that you're getting the right people, and also you want to, in addition to just having a professional editor, I do like having beta readers and proofreaders. They are different than an editor. So I do have beta readers, and they're just telling me if the story is shit or not. Like, not whether the commas in the right place or the periods are in the right place, or if I use that word correctly. They're going to tell me something like, I really like this story until had the 12-year-old kid in it. Like, why is that kid in there? He's annoying, get rid of him. They're going to tell you that kind of stuff. And a lot of times I find beta readers and proofreaders from bad reviews. Honestly, I'll get a bad review, and from somebody who, maybe I know or maybe I don't know. And I might message him and go, hey, thank you very much. How would you like to proofread my next book? And they're usually like, what? Because they're expecting me to be an asshole. They're expecting me to be like, motherfucker, you gave me a 1-star review. I'm not contacting people who give me 1-star reviews. Usually it's a star and gave me a reason why I didn't get 5 stars. Like, they'll give me a 3-star and they'll say, hey, I really like this, but he got all the names of the Vegas streets wrong. And, and nobody, you don't cock a Glock, and you don't do this, and you don't, and they'll give me all these reasons. And then I'll contact them and say, hey, I really liked some of the comments you made. How would you like to be a proofreader or a beta reader on my next book? That's in addition to an editor.
Oh, that's great, and that's a great way of just continuing to evolve, and then you give people the opportunity that earn it as well. Because they're taking the time. Like, again, most of what we do and the recognition we get is based off people like the ones that are on this live right now that have they take the time to write these reviews or post videos, all this stuff, and yeah. So thank you guys for being a part of that. Here's another question. Do y'all have any music you listen to when you write?
So I usually write in complete silence, but except for, like, noisy. I can write in the middle of anything. Like, I've written in the middle of a New Year's Eve party. I've been at a convention sitting in the hall writing on my computer. I don't have to have a particular mood set. However, what I have found is that I cannot write to certain types of music. Pretty much classical and blues is the only thing I can really write to. Everything else kind of distracts me and annoys me, and I turn it off. But if I have the ability to set the mood, which I rarely do, usually I just have to write when the mood strikes wherever I am, or whatever I'm doing. But if I have the ability to set the mood, it's going to be classical music or blues.
I'm kind of the same way, Rat. Like, I can't deal with wordy stuff. Like you said, it's distracting. I tend to listen to a lot of like horror synthwave music, or horror movie soundtracks are really good. Like, John Carpenter has 3 Lost Themes albums that came out that are just like, new Carpenter stuff, but it's kind of like what he did in his movies. That stuff's really relaxing, and it's like very like dark and brooding, so it fits usually with what you're writing, I feel like. So yeah, that's usually what I listen to. Um, let's see. So we're at 8:35. What do you think, Rath? Do you want to take a few more questions, or you want to think we wrap things up, or it's up to you? I'm I'm down for whatever.
I think we can take a couple more, and then yeah, no, I'll try not to be as long-winded, and we can wrap it up.
Ah, you're doing great, man. Again, I appreciate you coming on here. This has been awesome. So yeah, guys, we'll go for maybe another 10, 15 minutes. And while we do that, but before we get into our last questions piece, I'm just going to remind everybody, Rath's new paperback Rabbit Hunt dropped on Amazon. So to be eligible we're doing 5 audiobook codes for my new book, Through the Eyes of Desperation, the red version, and 1 of the out of print, limited to 400 signed copies of Wet Market. People are going to get those. Again, all you got to do is go ahead and message Rath, let them know that you did your pre-order. And I mean, not your pre-order, I'm sorry, that you ordered Rabbit Hunt in paperback, and you will be eligible. So again, we really appreciate everybody joining this. It's been a great time so far. But let's see if we have a few more questions that we can hit the home stretch on. Let's see here. And I see some great discussion amongst you guys in here too, and that's great. People supporting each other, kind of telling each other to, keep with the writing as you guys are early in your careers. So it's good. It's good to have encouragement, right? When I first started writing, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that too, Rath, but when I first started writing, it was a very solo activity for me, and I hadn't even been on social media for 8 years. I only got on because because I wanted to start promoting my books. I knew I had to if I was going to make a run at it. And so once I was on for a little bit, I got and joined some of the Facebook groups, like the Books of Horror is a great group, the Splatterpunk Readers group. There's quite a few that you can join, and you build like a little bit of a community. And I found after that, I started hanging out with Daniel Carver Pike, Roland Bursey, and we got together and did like a little podcast together where we just kind of, we talked about people we looked up to. Like we did an episode about Rath, about Brian Keene, Ryan Harding, all these different people. And then we would talk about whatever mistakes that we were making and, how you can avoid that. So I think like finding a few different people that you can kind of talk to and talk through your problems or your questions. It's good to have that. And usually they're not like bothered by it because everyone's sort of learning together. It's almost like an agreed upon thing. And I'm just curious, Rat, did you have anything like that when you were getting started?
Yes. So websites had message boards back then. That was the big thing. And there was a sort of like Godless is now. There was a independent marketplace for horror called Shocklines. And Shocklines had a message board that we would all get on and kind of encourage each other, talk about our books, talk about the business, talk about the craft, promote ourselves and all that. And sometimes engage in brutal flame wars, but it was really good. And thank you for bringing up Books of Horror and Splatterpunk readers and all those, because that is another good place to find beta readers, to find editors, those type of things as well. I've completely slipped my mind. And then of course there's going to conventions. That's really, I can't emphasize enough the importance of that, because just like Aron said, writing is very solitary, and you can start to feel like you're alone in the world out here, and that no one's reading your shit, and you don't know whether it's good or not, because you got to think it can take you 6 months to a year to write a novel, and during that whole time you don't know if this is any good. And you having people to encourage you and maybe even proofread it as you go along, or to even discuss the ideas that you have as you're writing it, is important. When we were at the writers retreat, we were all talking about our works in progress, and even getting ideas just from discussing it with other writers is important. I've worked out entire plot points that were frustrating the hell out of me just by talking to another writer and not even getting their feedback yet. Just as I was explaining the problem, I was like, oh, yeah, there's the solution right there. So it's important to have that dialogue rather than just staring at a computer all the time.
Yeah, and such great points, Raph. And someone just put in the chat, does the type of books you write affect your relationship with your spouse or new friends? And what you were saying right there about talking about stuff out loud, right? I'm very lucky because my wife is amazing with this. Like, she does not mind if I just fucking ramble on for like a half hour about something. And like you said, sometimes she'll give me feedback, right? And like stuff that she says helps me evolve the story. But there are other times where just talking about it, it's like a knot uncoiling, and like, oh, you've solved it, right? And it's merely by using your voice and getting out of your head. Sometimes if you just get out of your head and vocalize, your brain works differently, I think. At least for me. I don't know if it's the same for everybody. That's something I noticed. But in regards to the Ghost Coffee 1408's question, I mean, it doesn't, for me, I know you say the type of books you write. Type of books doesn't really affect. My wife doesn't care. She enjoys my books. My friends, new friends, I don't really have a lot of new friends unless those people are already writing fucked up shit usually. So it doesn't affect it negatively. What about you, Raph?
Um, so yeah, new relationships are always funny, like, uh, because they're gonna look you up. Everybody looks you up now online. So when you're in a new relationship and they look you up and they find what you read, what you write. I remember when 400 Days of Oppression came out. The woman I was dating at the time, she read it, and the first thing she said to me was like, "You're not gonna put me in a box. I'm not going in a pine box." And I'm like, "Don't worry, that's not my kink. Don't worry about it." And that's always interesting. Now I will say, people always ask me about pseudonyms, and I don't write under a pseudonym. Wrath is actually my name. It's what's on my driver's license. It's the same thing that goes on my books. Some people do to insulate themselves from, backlash from their community, their church, their job, whatever. That's a choice that you just need to make, whether that's something you want to do or not. I just don't give a fuck, but some people do, and sometimes even when I mentioned new relationships. Sometimes when you're in a relationship, maybe the person that you're with doesn't care, but they're worried about their friends or their parents or their family reading your stuff when they see your name. I've dealt with that, certainly.
Yeah, I'm the same too. I don't have a pseudonym. Just my regular name. Sometimes looking back, I'm like, damn, maybe it was the wrong choice, but I don't know. Only time will tell. Michael Abbott says Gut Rat's new book, and also pre-ordered the Aaron and Daniel Volpe Red and Black version. Wow, holy shit, that's awesome. Thank you very much,
Absolutely.
Michael. Be sure to message Wrath and let him know for the thing we're doing, because you might be eligible for some stuff. Let's see. We also have, what is a character you created that you love writing?
Um, so in Rabbit Hunt, there's a character named Mookie, who's kind of an idiot, and he's kind of a lovable idiot. And I won't spoil it, but he was fun to write. He definitely was. My two most famous characters, Dale from The Resurrectionist, and then Joseph Miles from Succulent Prey, were the exact opposite. They were very difficult for me because you have to, when you're writing, you embody every character. So even the most heinous, horrible characters, you have to live in their heads if you want to make them real characters and not one-dimensional caricatures. You have to kind of imagine what would motivate me to peel off someone's skin while they're alive and screaming for me to stop. Like, what would my motivation be? And you got to put yourself in a headspace, and that can be an uncomfortable space to be in sometimes.
Well, but like you said, it's important because it has to make sense. Everything has to have a purpose. Like, and when we were on the writers retreat, me and Shane dealt with this a bit, where we had this particular idea for the collaboration we're working on, and it's like it was really cool. Like, it's such a cool idea, and like we're just holding on to it because it's cool, right? And trying to justify it, turn it every single way we can to be like, yeah, it's going to work. And it was just the thing that was holding us back the whole time. And we're like, yeah, it's cool, but it makes no fucking sense. You know what I mean? Like, we can't do it because it doesn't make sense, you know? So that's like when you say, oh, get into that level, and that mindset. It's super important, because if you're not thinking like that character, then, it's gonna be disjointed, I think.
The hardest thing as a writer is maintaining suspension of disbelief. Once they are aware that they are reading and they're no longer in the story and immersed in the story, you've failed. So if there's something that jars the reader out of the story, then that's a failure. And a lot of times it could be, oh, nobody talks like that. It could be simple things. Oh, that doesn't make sense as a motivation. I stopped reading, I mean, not reading, but I stopped watching The Walking Dead because there were just too many moments like that. Like, for me, like I could not follow that story because there was too many moments where I was like, no one would fucking do that, and it pulled me out of the story. So you kind of have to be true to the character and put yourself in their heads. And like I said, sometimes that's a fun place to be, sometimes it's not.
Right. You have to make the sacrifice, though, for the sake of the story. Um, Lucas Mangum joined us. Thanks for joining, Lucas. I hope you're doing well, buddy. I know Lucas is getting ready to release another book too, so congrats to him. He was on the writers retreat with us.
I read his book that's coming out, Barn Door to Hell. It's a fun book. He's got some great stuff in there. You guys should definitely pick that one up when it comes out.
This has gone very well, so I think I'm going to try to do more of these, and hoping to get Lucas on here in the future too. But first, we got to make sure that everyone, the people that come on, are over 1,000 followers. So, because that gives them the ability to go live. So I know Shane McKenzie Horror is in here, and Lucas Mangum. Those are two people that I definitely want to go live with. Also, probably John Lynch. So if you guys give them a follow, that'll help us to get toward that goal. Um, let's see. What else do we got here? Anybody else? Oh, this is a strange question. Do you do escape rooms often to get into captive mindsets? If yes, how often do you do those?
Oh, I'm into bondage. That's good enough.
It's definitely escapism. Dude, I gotta say, well, we didn't talk about the Resurrectionist yet, though. We should do that real quick, because that one was adapted into a feature film. So I'm interested to see, and I bet a lot of the folks in here are. What was the process with that, and like, how did you feel, and what was it like? I know it can be tricky.
So, Resurrection. So the funny thing, the Resurrectionist was just weird. The whole way that book came about. All right, I'm gonna ramble for a little bit here. So, the Resurrectionist was not supposed to be my second published novel. It was supposed to be Yakub's Curse was supposed to be my second novel, and then about a month before Yakub's Curse was supposed to be released, Leisure Books contacted me and said, "Nah, we decided we don't want this. Do you have anything else?" And I had nothing. And I said, "Give me 5 months." And so I wrote in 5 months. I wrote The Resurrectionist, and um, they didn't even tell me. Like I sent it off. They didn't even tell me yes, we want it, and send me a contract. And they had already created a cover and were showing it at Book Expo in New York. And I didn't even know that they had accepted the book yet, and I was already getting offers for the film rights, based on just the synopsis and the book cover that they had shown at Expo. I had two people contact me asking if they could get the rights to the film. They hadn't even read the book yet. And so then, when the book came out, I think Book Expo was in like April or May, and then the book actually came out in June of, was it 2009 or 2010, something like that. And when the book came out, then I got a pretty serious offer for the film rights. But as I was reading through the contract, and I read all my own contracts, I never had an agent at that point. I was reading through the film contract. It was very different than a book contract, and I realized I was in over my head. And I didn't know, like, the process for getting a literary agent is usually pretty complex. But I was just like, I was just stumbling around. So I just picked an agent that a friend of mine had used, and I emailed them and said, "Hey, I'm in the middle of negotiating a film, and I don't know what I'm doing. So if you want to be my agent, you need to jump in right now." So, and, uh, and they contacted me back. We went out to dinner and we talked over everything. And I told them all the issues that I had with the contract, because this producer wanted the rights to all my characters, to own them. They wanted to have in the contract that I couldn't write a sequel for 7 years, and all this other stuff. And I was like, I'm really just not comfortable with that. And the agent was going back and forth negotiating with the producer. And then finally, I just said, you know what? No, I'm not doing it. I'm not selling them the rights. And my agent, at that time, he said to me, he goes, "I'm glad you said that, because if you're not willing to walk away from a deal, you're not negotiating, you're begging." And that line stuck with me. I've used that in my life ever since. That was probably the greatest words of wisdom I'd heard at that point. And I walked away from that deal. 1 month later, I got another offer for the film rights that did not ask. And I sold the screen rights to them, and they actually made the film. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, is a lot of time people will get the rights to your film for an option, and then never make the film. I remember talking to I think it was actually Jack Ketchum, and he was telling me he has a book that's been optioned every year for 30 years, and the film has never been. He said, I make about $500 every year just from them redoing the option. Because every year they go, "Oh, we haven't made the film yet, but we still want the rights. Here's another 500. Here's another 500." He goes, "That's been going on for 30 years." This person actually did make the film. And that was cool. I was not smart enough to ask for script approval, which I should have, because I wasn't really happy with the script. But once they made the film, it kind of worked.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, it's something that few people experience. You know what I mean? So, like, no matter what, like, even if it's not ideal as to how you wanted it, the fact that you were able to walk away, number one, and then, like you said, and keep your integrity and your IP, more important. And then, it's just wild, man. Because that was a while ago, right? How long ago was that?
The film came out in 2014.
2014.
Yeah, so the book came out in, I think, 2010, and then the film came out in 2014. So yeah, it's 10 years ago now. Wow. Wow. Uh, but yeah, that was saying no was hard, that for that first one, because I didn't know if anybody else would want the film, want to option the film, and saying no to that first producer was definitely hard. But I was glad I did, and it worked out because, like I said, I sold the film rights a month later. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's power of believing in yourself a little bit too, and being like, okay, the premise has something to it. If all these people are like going after it like piranhas almost, right? Like initially. So yeah, I think that's awesome. I love hearing a story like that, man. That's I also, we have a few more minutes left, so I wanted to talk about his pain a little bit too. This was really really interesting. The way you set the tone of this story and just that like the uniqueness. If you guys want a really unique horror read, just something different. Again, like you were saying, there's so much stuff that's been done. Five Ways to Sunday. This is a very unique concept, and it reads really fast. I have a terrible attention span when it comes to reading. I blew through this, and my wife actually read it too, and she loved it. So there was just to set up how you talk about his condition and everything. What was do you mind if I ask what was like the inspiration for this, or how did you come about setting that up?
I had written a short story called No Pain, and it was about a guy who didn't feel pain, who was working at as basically grew up in the circus and was a circus freak, and they would kind of torture him as a child, torture him in front of people for, because he couldn't feel pain. And I was like, I'd be interested to do the opposite of that. And at the time, Delirium Books was asking me for a novella. And so I wrote it, gave it to them, and they rejected it. And then Brian Keene actually stepped in and was like, "Are you guys fucking crazy? This is brilliant. You guys should accept it." And Brian Keene and the publisher at that time actually argued about the book, and then they wound up publishing it. But they said it was going to be pre-order only, so they would have no risk. And it wound up being their top seller that year. But yeah, that book was so different. I think that's what a lot of people had a hard time with, was that it was a very different concept. The idea of a kid who experiences nothing but pain, like every sensation emits pain. And that was a lot of fun to write because I had to really think about what this person's life would be like. Every sensation, if every sensation is painful, how do you even exist? That was it was a lot of fun to write.
You got really, really granular with it, and like in a good way. You know what I mean? Like the details were like, oh shit, I never thought of that. To where like the voices of people are bothering him. You know what I mean? Like literally everything, light. Like and I love like the Yogi character, dude. He's hilarious. It's so good. I don't want to say anything more of it because it'll give shit away, but I would just say just read it because it's awesome. And especially if you got like a short attention span, it's tremendous for that. You just blow through it. Let me see here. We got well, we're just about 9 o'clock now, so I think what I'll do is I will remind people one more time. Wrath, if you wanna, do you got Rabbit Hunt over there still? So Rabbit Hunt, that came out in paperback on Amazon today. So to celebrate that, we're saying if anyone grabs one, just go ahead and shoot Wrath a message and let him know that you grabbed a copy. And then, because we got 5 audiobook codes for Through the Eyes of Desperation, the red version, my new book. And we have one hardcover, limited to 400, that is no longer in print in hardcover. That's signed and numbered. And those items are going to go to someone who paperback a Rabbit Hunt. And you know what? We'll do one thing just because there's been a lot of people that have stepped on the stream with us. I'm going to give away, that's a bad word. I shouldn't have said that. There will be another, I only have 4 of these left. So a second one, right? um, right now to somebody go ahead and call red or black in the chat. And I'm going to have Wrath pick someone. So whoever comes up, if you see somebody's name, Wrath, you can pick them and say what they called.
Let me see. 14 messages. Let's see. Let's say black from Erica Daza.
Erica Daza. Okay. So this side represents black, and this side represents red. All right, Erica, let's see if you're lucky. If not, we'll do another one. Did she call black?
Yep.
She's the winner. Won on the first one. So congratulations to Erica. Just message me directly for that one. Everyone else who bought Wrath's paperback version of Rabbit Hunt on Amazon, to him, and we will talk and make sure that if you end up getting selected, that I get your prize to you. But thanks, Erica. Congratulations. Thanks to everybody who stayed with us for 2 hours. We had close to an audience of about 70 or 80 the whole time, and we're almost close to 55 right now, even at the end here. So we appreciate it. I had a great time, Wrath.
This was a lot of fun. And thanks to everybody who joined us. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoy Rabbit Hunt.
Absolutely. And just one more time too, if you guys are interested in KillerCon, I know somebody in the chat was talking about our shirts. So usually a new shirt comes out every year. Are those on the KillerCon Austin website?
They will be. They have not. The new shirts aren't available yet. Usually comes out about a month or two before the event. KillerCon is in August, second week of August. It's in Austin. Go to killerconaustin.com and you can register there. But yeah, usually about a month or two before the event is when the new shirts come out.
Awesome. If you're down to travel to Austin and hang out with us, it's going to be a great time. And hopefully we'll see some of you in Virginia, Williamsburg. It scares that care in about less than 2 months now. Wrath, do you want to shout out your website again too?
WrathJWHorror.com. WrathJWHorror.com. You can get a autographed copy of Rabbit Hunt in hardback right now, paperback probably in a week or so. I'll get my order and autograph them all.
And my website's abhorror.com, so feel free to go over there. I've got a lot of different packages and bundles available, all signed, and some different merch and swag. But thank you again, everyone, and to the people who are thinking about starting writing, go for it. No time like the present. You got all the tools there. So we'll talk to you guys soon. All right, Wrath, it was great talking, man.
Same. I'll see you soon.
Sounds good.
Hey, 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 hey.
I've been quiet for too long.
Show's over.